Hi, I'm going to start the session. It's 1 o'clock and we have to keep to time. I expect some people will roll in the next few minutes. There are lots of interesting sessions on this afternoon, but we have two very prominent speakers who are appearing by recorded presentation today. So the title of this double conference event is Lifestyle and Psychiatric Disorders, and I'm the moderator today. My colleague and friend, Dr. Yuanhua Cho from Taiwan, could not be here because he could not travel, and he has to attend some other meetings, so I agreed to moderate on my own. First, we're going to have Professor Serdar Dursun from Canada talk about the pros of lifestyle is effective on the emergence and course of psychiatric disorders. And that will be followed up by Professor Dost Onger, who is known to everybody in this organization as a Boston-based professor of psychiatry, who is also the editor-in-chief of JAMA Psychiatry. So Serdar Dursun is a professor of psychiatry at the University of Alberta. He's been there for many years. He's an expert on biological psychiatry and psychopharmacology, and is trained as a clinical research scientist and a practicing psychiatrist who does general adult psychiatry, and is well known to this organization. He has presented here many times and has been involved in some of the other symposia here. I know him very well. He's a close friend and colleague. We all know Dost Onger. Dost is a native of Istanbul. Dr. Onger has a background in neuroscience and clinical psychiatry, currently the chief of the Psychotic Disorders Division, responsible for 2 inpatient units, a residential facility, and a specialty outpatient clinic. In addition to the clinical workload, he's funded from NIMH and other sources for his research, uses brain imaging techniques to study chemical abnormalities in patients with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Dr. Onger is currently an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. Has published many important articles on research into neurobiology of bipolar and schizophrenia, and has won many notable awards for Harvard Medical School for his teaching and for mentoring. And as I said, he serves as one of the editors of JAMA Psychiatry, which is arguably the premier journal in psychiatry in the world today. So without further ado, I'll ask our technical team to run the video from Dr. Serdar Dursun. It's now 4 a.m. where he is, so we'll have the recorded version. Thank you.
Hepinize merhaba. Bugünkü konuşmamda
Hello everyone, I have my topic as lifestyle psychiatry. Unfortunately, the voice is inaudible. For the interpreters, we are asking for help. I'm quite sorry if you can hear me now.
psikiyatrik hayat tarzıyla ilgili akıl hastalıkları alanı şeklinde yeni bir alan oluşuyor. Benim konu ise hayat tarzıyla ilgili yaşama stilimizle ilgili konular, psikiyatrik hastalıkların seyrini kesinlikle.
In my research, lifestyle is effective actually in psychiatric disorders. And I believe
O da bu konunun daha antitezini tartışacağız. Şimdi başlamadan önce şöyle yapalım. Hayat tarzı nedir? Yani hayat tarzı dediğimizde neyi kastediyoruz? Bunu tanımlamak lazım. Hayat tarzı genelde bütün davranışlarımızı kapsar, bütün sabah kalktığımızda yaptığımız işlerimizi, günlük hobilerimizi, yediğimizi, içtiğimizi, sosyal hayatımızı, çalışma hayatımızı, arkadaşlarımızı, iş arkadaşlarımızı ve bütün herkesi kapsayan, bu tür aktiviteleri kapsayan bir tarzdır. Tabii hayat tarzı nasıl değiştirebiliriz? Bazı değişebilecek konular vardır, bazıları da değişmeyebilir. Kusura bakmayın, slaytlarım İngilizce oluyor. Değiştirebildiğimiz hayat tarzı konuların ve davranışları diyettir. Yediğimiz, içtiğimiz diyettir. Fiziksel aktivitedir. Sigara veya diğer yasal maddeleri içmedir. Alkol ve diğer türlü davranışlardır. Bunlar tabii çok önemli. Özellikle bu gördüğünüz davranışla ilgili aktiviteler kesinlikle direkt olarak gerçek hastalıkları ve fiziksel hastalıkları etkilemektedir. Kilo, asma ve sexually transmitted disease, depresyon ve anksiyetleri yer almaktadır. Peki niye hayat tarzına yöneliyoruz? Neden hayat tarzı hayat tarzı psikiyatrisi konusu neden önemli? Çünkü bildiğimiz gibi, siz de biliyorsunuz, bütün çabalarımıza rağmen psikiyatrik hastalıkların sıfıra inmesi çok tedavi yapıyoruz. Tedavi hem farmakolojik tedavi, psikoterapi, social support, bütün hepsini yapmamıza rağmen hastaların tam ben depresyondan iyileştim veya var hastalığım iyileştim veya anksiyetemi, PTSD'mi tam iyileştim diye çok nadir duyuyoruz. Bunun için acaba hayat tarzı değişmeleri buna olumlu etki olabilir mi? Yani hayat tarzını değiştirirsek psikiyatrik hastalığın prognozunu değiştirebilir miyiz? Bu ne olur? Genelde çok gördüğümüz kronik hastalıklar, diyabet 2 hastalığı, hipertansiyon, kardiyovasküler hastalıklar şeklinde görüyoruz. Acaba bunların seyrini değiştirdiğimizde, hayat tarzımızı değiştirdiğimizde bu tedaviye dirençli semptomlar iyileşir mi, iyileşmez mi onu gözlemliyoruz. Peki neden önemli? Peki niye bu lifestyle psikiyatri, hayat tarzı psikiyatri neden önemli? Şöyle, çünkü baktığımızda hakikaten basit bulgulardır bunlar. Psikiyatrik hastalarımızda özellikle klasik olarak görüyoruz. Her hastalıkta da görüyoruz. Fiziksel hastalıklar oranı çok yüksek. Maalesef bu hastalarımızı erken kaybediyoruz. Premature mortalitesi vardır. Bir de maalesef sosyoekonomik nedenlerden dolayı hastalarımızın fiziksel aile hekimlerini görmesi, tedavi görmesi çok zor oluyor. Yani kalite düşmüş oluyor maalesef. Ve bir de zaten bu hastalarımız tedavi verilse de belki tedaviye compliance olmayabiliyorlar. Almayabiliyorlar. Zaten yani ilaç almama, compliance çok büyük problem. Hele bir de tıbbi tedavi için gerekirse bu da çok zorluk oluyor. Bir de tabii bu hastalarımızın tıbbi tedavi diye yönlendirmeleri zor olabilir. Şimdi peki nedir? Lifestyle hastalıklar nedir? Hayat tarzıyla genelde büyük ölçüde hayat hastalıklar oluyor. Bu ne oluyor? Kötü diyet oluyor. Proses yeme içme oluyor. Yani porsiyonu ve vesaire oluyor. Fizik aktivitemiz az oluyor. Çok yoğun çalışıyoruz. Strese giriyoruz. Şeklinde bunlar genelde hayat tarzı hastalıklarına neden olabilir. World Health Organization, WHO'nun bu yönde çalışmaları var. Gerçekten aşağı yukarı senede 16 milyon önlenebilir hastalıklardan dolayı maalesef kaybedilebiliyor. Yani bu çok önemli. Bunu bilmek ve bunu önlemek maalesef.
And let's check what are they. It's obesity, diabetes, arteriosclerosis, heart disease, stroke, and hypertension. These are classical lifestyle diseases. Actually, we do classify them as such, and every physician should know about that. And additionally, we have nephritis, it occurs in kidneys, cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, allergies, hearing problems, and as you may see, there are depression, anxiety disorders, Alzheimer's disease, and chronic headaches should be included to the list. And what are the factors? What factors are important? Let's review that part. In regard to lifestyle diseases, what are the important factors? As you may see, the most important thing is unhealthy, poor eating habits and drinking habits. It is already stated in the literature, poor eating and drinking habits affect cancer, stroke, heart diseases, and diabetes. It increases the risk, and also poor eating habits and processed food cause some dietary intake problems, and also it causes diabetes. And in that situation, what is the impacted area? It shortens the lifespan. We do see that the shortened span is nearly extends from 10 to 20 years. There's a decrease in life expectancy with these diseases. And the reason underlying that fact is these bad habits. Suicide and injury cause 30 to 40% mortality, but when we check premature mortality rate is 60% for schizophrenia patients. 30 to 40% of these patients are lost because of suicides or injuries, accidents, but 60% of those mortalities could be prevented actually. What are those? Cardiovascular, pulmonary, and infectious diseases are the cause of these premature deaths. And for schizophrenia patients, we lose them nearly 15 years ago. For male and for female, this is 12 years premature death. And let's check, are there any studies? Indeed, there are quite nice ones. For the ones who have no mental disorder, let's check the lifespan. It's nearly in between 75 to 80 years. And the lifespan for any mental disorder in general population, you may see that there is a 15 to 20 years premature that occurs. The lifespan is shortened to 20 years, and any mental disorder in public sector, it is quite a lower, nearly 55 years is the lifespan. So mental disorder could shorten the life expectancy up to 15 years. And what are the causes? What are the preventable causes of that? The most important one, you may check it, healthy behaviors, health behaviors, 40%. This could be modified actually, and yes, genetics is quite difficult to change in the future. It could be possible, but 40% is health behaviors and 20% is for social and environmental causes, and 10% is the access to healthcare. New England Journal of Medicine states the percentages as such. And if we just add up health behaviors and to social and environmental facts, we may change the course majorly. But this behaviors, health behaviors, up to us. But social and environmental causes are somehow not directly up to us, and healthcare could be added to the social and environmental factors even. And when we check the risk factors for cardiovascular diseases, this is presented quite nicely. Schizophrenia and bipolar disorder are examined here, two chronic diseases. Risk factors are listed as obesity, smoking, diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and metabolic syndromes. And as there's an increase in these risk factors, you may see the percentages, the prevalence and relative risk of schizophrenia. It's quite high, especially with obesity. It is 45 to 55% for schizophrenia, and for bipolar disorder, it is 26%. Patients who have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder diagnosis, I just saw a patient, no smoking, normal BMI, no hypertension, no dyslipidemia, physically in perfect condition. You can't claim any such patients. For such diagnosis, cardiovascular risk factors are quite high. And if we have these high risk factors, smoking is 80%. Even in one of our research, it was 90%. I think we also need national data for this issue as well, for Turkey. And what is the cumulative effect of these problems? When we add up smoking and social isolation, and when we have social isolation, there could be certain problematic issues, for example, violence. Vulnerability could be listed, unemployment, poverty, and lack of means to access healthcare, medication, polymorphisy could create a cumulative effect on bipolar disorder patients, for example. Unfortunately, this is the bitter truth. And now, let's check the rates of treatment and non-treatment. How many of these patients get treatment? This is the data from Katie trial. It's a huge trial. $50 million was the cost of it. And when we check Katie data for schizophrenia patients, diabetes mellitus is witnessed, and 11% of schizophrenia patients had diabetes mellitus, and 30% didn't get treatment for DM. 33% had hypertension, but 63% of them didn't get treatment for hypertension, and dyslipidemia is quite high. 68% of them have the dyslipidemia diagnosis. However, 88% of them were not treated for dyslipidemia, and this study has been performed in the United States. Large centers have been included to this one, but the percentages are quite high. Diabetes, hypertension, and dyslipidemia. If we just include all of them, so we are inviting some major diseases, cardiovascular diseases, systemic diseases. And when it comes to the smoking studies, I couldn't see anything in Turkey. I believe it is higher in Turkey, but let's check it for schizophrenia. Nearly 60% of the patients do smoke. It changes from center to center, but general average 60%. For bipolar, it is less, 40%, and for no disorder individuals, it changes in between 10 to 30%. There are lots of theories. Why do they smoke? Do they take nicotine for a purpose? This is another topic to discuss in a separate presentation, surely. And let's check alcohol disorders. It is then again very interesting. In some diseases, you may see for schizophrenia, there was high rates in smoking. Even in our clinic, it is quite rare to see a schizophrenia patient with no smoking habit. For alcohol, it is different. Bipolar 1 has the percentage of 46 for alcohol abuse or dependence. Bipolar 2 has 39%. Schizophrenia is 33%. Panic order 28%. For unipolar depression, it is 16%. In general population who haven't got any mental disorder diagnosis, it is 13.8%. And leading cause of global disability. Let's check these disorders. Impacting the lifestyle of patients, preventing them from work, for example. When we check the percentages, 42.5% is for depressive disorders, and then 15% represents anxiety disorders, and we do see that drug use disorders is nearly 10%, nearly 8% is alcohol use disorders, and of course, if we check it, nearly 8% is schizophrenia patients who had disability, global disability. But the most important is depressive disorders. Depressive disorders also use alcohol, and when we add up the numbers, it's quite high, over 50%. If we just take it as mood disorders, when we combine three of them, it is 60%. Unfortunately, the rates are quite high. And then we check the systems. However, let's see patient-related factors. Are there any problems regarding the treatment, for example? Surely. And when we check these issues, lack of motivation, apathy, for a depressive patient, for example, if you choose psychotherapy, pharmacological treatment is supported with psychotreatment, but if there is no increase in the motivation, if there is apathy, for example, then it is problematic. If there are any cognitive impairments, if they can't access to the healthcare services timely, then the course of the disease is not quite pleasant. Poverty is an important factor. Poor social communication skills are observed as the factors contributing to the course of disease, fear and distrust. And by saying comorbidity, by the way, here I'm talking about any substance or alcohol abuse, actually. The control is quite difficult when we have these factors. What kind of lifestyle changes we can offer? Behaviorally, we may suggest diet changes or quitting smoking, for example. If we do not take any alcohol, if we can prevent drug addiction, and if we increase physical activity, for example, we could have the desired behavioral changes. When it comes to material changes, environment pollution, surely it is quite nice to be on the Mediterranean. However, not everyone is able to feel Mediterranean atmosphere. But we can suggest certain things, and stress psychologically is an important factor. But let's start with the behavioral ones, and let's start with diet. Diet and mental health, are they really linked? To me, surely. But there's no linear relation. What do we eat? What do we drink? Have a certain impact on tissues, on neurons. So this concept is quite important. We should have a balanced diet. I still do not know what is balanced diet. You may see in the picture we have pomegranate here, we have oranges. And surely fresh fruit is expensive, and for our patients with mental disorders, they may have certain financial challenges. And if it is the case, how can we have a balanced diet? Balanced diet is crucial because it decreases the risk of chronic diseases. It prevents any weight gain, and it can prevent diabetes. It also contributes to cardiovascular health, and obesity is prevented. There is you can see a very nice fish. If we can have a balanced intake of nutrition, physical diseases could be prevented. Whole grains should be consumed. Vegetables and fruits should be enjoyed with moderate portions. And of course, there are lots of good studies. North Sea published this one in 2019. A whole food diet is important, and for the patients who have whole food diets have less depression rates, and schizophrenia course is even mild with this diet course. And nutritional medicine as mainstream in psychiatry. This is another article from Lancet Psychiatry. Nutritional medicine should now be considered as a mainstream, it says. And of course, a balanced diet could be affordable as well. It doesn't have to be expensive. And in medicine, we should just train people about that. And we need to promote healthy diet. I am trying to provide this information to every single patient that I see. A balanced diet should be suggested by everyone. And American Journal of Psychiatry also provided information for that. Dietary intervention should be suggested to reduce the rates of psychiatric disorders. It has been published more than 10 years ago. In March 2010, they were talking about this. And as I've stated earlier, what is balanced diet, what is not, it somehow depends on the financial situation of that person. Unprocessed foods, meat, fish, beans, eggs, dairy products, especially bread, those are quite important, but not the processed ones. And when it comes to modern diet is for fast life. And what does it include? Unfortunately, unhealthy things. Sugar intake is quite high. Soda and fruit juices are quite common. Processed foods are consumed largely. Egg consumption has decreased, and unfortunately, fats and oils are processed generally, and those are not good for your health. Organic and inorganic, conventional concepts. This is quite different. When we say organic, it is the production of that food, for example, without any chemicals, no fertilizers, no additional chemicals, no pesticides, for example. It is all natural. It's organic. And the conventional includes chemical or synthetic fertilizers. Genetically modified crops are used. And of course, there could be certain side effects. And poor nutrition leads to obesity. And obesity is one of the biggest major problems of the modern society. We do measure it with BMI, with fat measurements. For example, every clinic has their own index, but we do know that obesity leads to cancer, leads to coronary heart diseases, to stroke, for example, and even in dementia, there are certain studies, and it shortens the lifespan. And as I've stated, measurements are changing. In some centers, they are just checking the central obesity in the abdominal area, taking the measures from there. And the patient who have central obesity unfortunately develops insulin resistance, and this causes high triglyceride levels and even cholesterol. High blood pressure could be observed even in young patients. And let's check comorbidity and shared pathways to illness. For depression, we do see high comorbidity levels with heart diseases, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. Depression patients even if they're not pre-diagnosed with these diseases, after the depression and during the depression, they may develop it. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome patients are high likely to be diagnosed with depression as well. And what is the common underlying reason? It is diet. Diet is quite important. Balanced diet is crucial. There are systematic reviews, checking if it causes depression. You may see it here. Poor diet patterns may lead to depression in accordance with this meta-analysis. The ones who have poor nutrition, and there is no definition of poor diet actually. The risk is quite high with poor eating habits in accordance with that one, or equals to 0.824, and it is quite high. And it is not specific to US. Even the expectant mother's health status affect the health of the baby. Even in the life, during the life of the baby may develop mental health disorders and surely physical problems as well. For expectant mothers, we do suggest them to have a balanced diet. And what is the evidence for that. What is the best diet in the world? You all know it. The best diet of the world is Mediterranean diet. Turkish cuisine, for example, you may check it from the studies, you may check Austrian studies, you may check Spanish, US studies, European studies, and it all shows that Mediterranean diet is the best balanced one. And in beautiful Turkey, it is the center of civilization. We just live the 4 seasons, and it is quite healthy to have a Mediterranean cuisine. In this large randomized primary prevention trial, there are nearly 4,000 participants. If it had been conducted in Canada, I would have been there surely, enjoying Mediterranean cuisine every day. There are 3 diet groups in this trial: low-fat dietary advice, provided in accordance with the guidelines of American Heart Association, and Mediterranean diet. And the third group got a Mediterranean diet with 30 grams per day nuts. And everyone in these 3 groups were followed up. And when we check, you may see the results here. The best results were coming from the Mediterranean diet and nuts. If you add up walnuts, etc., the diabetes rate is quite low, 0.59. And in terms of depression, there is a preventive impact. None of them were in depression. But let's check the summary. The summary is that if we follow Mediterranean diet and add nuts to the intake, there is an improvement in symptoms of depression, and the ones who have no depression had the preventive effect of it. And surely a good diet is accompanied with physical exercise as well. You are well fed, and in Mediterranean it is always sunny. You just enjoy the fresh air. And our ancestors stated that nice weather, fresh air is everything for mental health. And why is it important? There are lots of studies. Everyone is trying to figure that out. Inflammation, oxidative stress, BDNF, and brain plasticity got microbiota. Let's review these topics. Are there any relations in between those? Why Mediterranean cuisine is good? Because it does not cause any inflammation, even decreases inflammation. Western dietary patterns causes an increase in inflammation rates. And as I've stated earlier, C-reactive protein is an indicator for inflammation, but it is not quite sensitive. A 4-week intervention with high intake of carotenoid-rich vegetables, we do see that inflammation is decreased in non-smoking males. And when it comes to BDNF and brain plasticity, it is quite important. Having low rates of BDNF, good for brain plasticity. And this Mediterranean diet has an impact on BDNF levels as well. It reduces it. For Alzheimer's patients, there are certain studies showing the impact of BDNF. It could have certain impact on memory. This was quite interesting to me. Hippocampal region is about memory mostly, and when can we evaluate the volume changes in hippocampal region with an observation on nutrition? Yes, indeed. Hippocampal volume is much bigger in the ones who have a good diet when we compare it with poor diet and average diet individuals. It could be observed through the studies. Yes, good diet has clear impact on brain. And for gut microbiota, as you do know, there are 100 trillion microbes in our gastrointestinal system, and anything that we eat, anything that we drink have an effect on it. It could depend on age, geography, diet, stress, medication use. The numbers could differentiate. However, the studies show that people who have probiotics, fermented milk products have better brain activity. I mean, by saying probiotics, it means we can eat a couple of spoon of yogurt or feta cheese, for example. In Diyarbakir, there was a very delicious cheese, actually. It may also work. If we have this probiotics, the diet could be quite healthy to contribute our overall health. And this is a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. It is to check the metabolic response to probiotic administration in patients with major depressive disorder, and in all groups, both insulin resistance and back depression inventory results have been improved, both metabolically and in terms of depressive symptoms. There is an improvement. Gut microbiome is hugely related with this issue, and there are lots of improvements in the market. Actually, in Ireland, for example, there are trials to check the probiotics, and taking probiotics had a reduced tendency to pay attention to negative information, and it may contribute additionally. They also, these people had lower levels of stress hormone, cortisol, and when we have decreased cortisol levels and decreased inflammation rates, patients feel better. And for Montgomery depression scale and BMI and mean proportions of hard task choices in MMD individuals have been observed, and depressive symptoms decrease with following a decrease in their body mass index. And even if we take the BMI as a criteria, we can just, they have checked the connectivity in brain circuit. In callus callosum, you may see it here. There are activities with lower BMI. These activities are improved. If the BMI is high in obese patients, for example, the brain activity is not that good. When we check obesity and depression, for obesity patients, in accordance with the severity of obesity, actually, depression's severity could increase as well. Both the treatment, prognosis could get worse. Obesity and major depressive disorder are in correlation. And also environmental and socio-economic factors contribute to the situation. In terms of hypertension, for example, for people who have poor socioeconomic status, poor environmental impacts, there is an increase in their prognosis, for example. And additionally, there are omega-6 fatty acids, there are EPAs, there is zinc that we can include to the nutrition. This is a pure form of omega acids. L-methylfolate could be added for depressive patients' nutrition.
Bilateral.
We have reviewed the bilateral relationship, both for depressive patients and diabetic patients and cardiological problems, hypertension. These are increasing on the one hand, and on the other hand, in obese patients, just obesity is a risk factor. When this is the case, a high BMI, type 2 diabetes is high, heart disease is high, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is high, osteoarthritis, and some cancers. It has been certainly shown, breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, renal cancer, and stroke, depression, anxiety, dementia, and sleep apnea, sleep disturbances, and even Alzheimer's disease. And type 3, type 1, type 2, type 3 diabetes might be recognized as Alzheimer's disease by some. And you know, there are the other bad habits known to all. And smoking, when we say in Turkey, we speak about tobacco. However, in Canada, when you say smoking, they ask what it is that you're smoking, tobacco or substance or other things. And this is a really bad habit when we say smoking. And here, in my neighborhood, there were hookah bars, and they have been prohibited. So, what are the effects of smoking? Smoking or other material that create smoke, they have acute, short-term and long-term effects. And every time you smoke, We know that the amount of nicotine is high and carbon monoxide is there, heart rate is increasing, blood pressure is increasing, and of course we have heart and blood vessels being contracted or shrinking. So we lose our hair, we lose our appetite, our teeth become yellow and facial hair yellows, and low sperm count is also another consequence for males. Alcohol, as you know, no need to say, is very harmful. According to studies of David Nutt, it is the number one danger in the scale of dangerousness. Alcohol has all sorts of side effects, adverse effects, violence, car accidents, suicide, and sexual violence. These may all be the consequences of alcohol addiction. And in a very short period of time, we see the following effects of alcohol on body, depending on the amount that you take in. Heavy sweating, blurry vision, nausea, vomiting, and cardiovascular problems, as well as increased blood pressure, anxiety, restlessness, depression, and in the long term, we have really severe adverse effects from head to toe in every part of the body. There is no part of the body or organ that is unaffected with long-term use of alcohol. It is such a dangerous chemical substance. Another bad habit is about the illicit drugs. Cannabis, cocaine, heroin, opium, ecstasy, LSD, and others. Opioid particularly is a great problem among students at schools. Crystal meth, methamphetamine is another huge problem which may lead to fatality, poisoning due to accidental overdose, opioid particularly. Pollution, on the other hand, is very important. It is a topic that can be handled on its own. I mean, it is that effective, that dangerous, and it leads to less oxygenation of our body, which may result in mental health problems and physical problems as well. And the effects of pollution are shown here: asthma and COPD, lung cancer, gastric problems, hepatitis A, and leptospirosis, as well as other diseases, are the consequences of pollution. And indirectly, it may also lead to infectious problems, fungal, bacterial, and viral and protozoa diseases. Stress is very important, and unfortunately, sometimes we can reduce the stress, but in some other professions it is very high, and stress suppresses the immune system. It increases blood pressure, stroke, heart disease, and infertility even may be the result, and it also accelerates aging. So we need to take stress very seriously, as it is important. Physical activity is very important. They call it the couch disease. I mean, just sitting down. Of course, smoking is less, but other substances are smoked more. They say the new smoking is physical inactivity. Just sitting on your couch and watching TV. Inactivity in this sense. may lead to all those problems we mentioned: hypertension, high cholesterol, cardiovascular diseases, obesity, and stroke, diabetes, all of these. And physical inactivity, if it's a very high level, then you need to check whether there's an underlying depression. Because I mentioned there's a bilateral relationship. Sleep, of course, is very important. We need to take a sufficient amount of sleep every day. Very important. Unfortunately, in our psychiatric diagnosis, we see that our patients suffer from sleep disturbances, a very important problem. And what happens during sleep? Mobile phones should be turned on, or they will affect the quality of your sleep. It's important to sleep well for a healthy life.
Zaten
I have shown this slide before about physical activity. What are the benefits of physical activity? If you are physically active, then you will have better cardiovascular health. Diabetes will be low, and you will feel energetic, less stressful, and osteoporosis will be reduced. So what should we do in terms of health? Of course, we need a balanced diet, avoiding junk food, no alcohol, and no smoking or other illicit substances or drugs. We should keep wary of them. And we should be physically active. Whatever that we can do to this end will be useful. And pollution, of course, depends on where we live, where we work, but fresh air is very important, reducing stress is important, exercising regularly, and getting plenty of sleep. Now the conclusion. When the patients come to me for the first time, they want me to prescribe the medicine. They say, "Where's my medicine, doctor?" I do not prescribe them medicine all the time. I tell them to live a healthy life and reduce their stress, balanced diet, activity, mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and quitting alcohol consumption or quitting smoking. This is what I recommend them. Then they say, "Yes, we know all about these, but we expect something else from you. Medicine is what we want." But lifestyle should be recognized as an integral and different part of psychiatry, and we should be supporting our patients in terms of their lifestyles within psychiatry. And I talked about exercise. Let me give you more details of this. As you know, runners, when they run and come back home, they say they feel very good. It is called the runner's high. Dopamine increasing, you feel very good. And walking or running or fast walking would be very useful for everyone. And there are many studies on this. Those exercising and those not exercising, it is shown that the brain health is better for the physically active based on MR assessment and MRI assessment. Depression starts very late or at very low levels if you're exercising, and if you're already in depression, then the severity of the depression will decrease if you're physically active. And treatment with exercise augmentation for major depression, it is called TREAD. Yes, we should prescribe this for our patients in depression. There are also meta-analyses which say that physical activity and exercise will be improving the depressive symptoms. Thank you all. for your patience. Thank you very much.
So I apologize to the audience for this going over time. With recorded presentations, we have no control. But I can tell you that Professor Onger's presentation is 30 minutes, and so the session will finish more or less on time. So I introduced Dost at the beginning of the session. He's well known to all Turkish members of this association, trainees and psychiatrists, very prominent psychiatrist in the United States, and associate editor for JAMA Psychiatry. Without further ado, I'll ask the technical team to roll Dost Onger's opposite view. Thank you.
Merhaba, hepinize iyi günler diliyorum.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. I'm Dost Öngür. Unfortunately, I'm not physically there this year. I have to connect from Boston, United States of America. Before the pandemic, I had the chance to meet many of you physically, and I hope to do that again in the following years. However, this year, because of the circumstances around the world known to all, I couldn't make it there. I would like to congratulate the organizing committee, first of all, for their efforts, because such congresses, scientific meetings can be suspended, postponed, or may be held just online, considering the pandemic circumstances. But I'm proud that you managed to organize the Congress in this format. I will be speaking about lifestyle. Is it effective on the emergence and course of psychiatry? Mr. Serdar talked about the effect of emergence, lifestyle on emergence of course of psychiatric disorders. He said they are effective, and I will try to tell you that it's not effective. In these pro-con discussions, generally, when you choose pro or con, you have to simplify things to give your point, because the reality may be more complex, more complicated. And for example, when we say psychiatric diseases, first of all, schizophrenia and other severe psychiatric diseases and psychotic diseases will be the topic of my discussion. Considering what we call as lifestyle, of course, they may have a direct impact on certain psychiatric diseases. Anorexia, bulimia are among those, because these are diseases of the 20th century in the Western nations, in Pacific Islands, in Fiji, for example, until 1980s. Being obese was considered a symbol of your high status, meaning you are wealthy and you have access to sufficient food. I mean, you can eat however much you like. Then in 1980s, television is introduced to the island, and the Western TV series are being watched by the population, and the local people see the thin, long, tall actors and actresses, and in a period of 10 to 15 years, their perception changes about the body image changes. In Fiji, the adolescents aged 14 and 15 start developing eating disorders and anorexia, because they want to become like those actors and actresses they see on TV. So it cannot be explained by some genetic factors or other factors. So in Fiji, it is really striking that the new cultural codes introduced there has changed the messages given to the young people about the perception of beauty. This turned out to be what they considered to be real beauty. So we need to take these into account too, and we're discussing this topic today actually in severe psychiatric diseases, and also these disorders which match the definition of psychiatric disease better, like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And in these diseases, are lifestyle changes effective, or lifestyle is effective? I say lifestyle in English, and what I think it defines or describes is that to a certain extent, it is the person's own choice. Different styles of life. For example, sleeping regularly, going to bed and waking up at the same time, you can get used to it. Or using little or no alcohol, you can choose to do it, leaving aside those with alcohol consumption disorder. So it is possible to sustain such a life depending on your preference. When to eat, when to drink alcohol, when to go to bed, when to smoke or not, or exercising, physical activity. These are your own choices. With your own will, you can choose to do them little or more, or not to do them at all. But of course, you cannot force yourself to exercise 2 hours a day and 7 days a week because you're not going to run a marathon. And of course, there are physical limits. And without forcing those limits, without putting too much pressure on yourself, it is possible to change your behavioral patterns and to take up healthier habits. If we can change these patterns of lifestyles, will they be effective on psychiatric disorders? So if you define lifestyle like this and the psychiatric disease like that, I think we have a table. We have a new picture. 18, 19-year-old patient, let's say, may not go into psychosis if he had enough sleep. Is it possible to say this, for example? Or if he or she went on regular walks, maybe he or she wouldn't have a manic attack or melancholic severe depression which led to suicide attempt. So can we say this? Is it possible? This is the question that we should be asking, in my opinion. And shortly, to summarize, I think from my point of view, if the right lifestyle was chosen, there wouldn't be a psychiatric disease. Is not possible. We cannot say that because there are certain courses and processes of psychiatric diseases. There may be biological or other sociological factors that affect it. It is not just about lifestyle and other sociological factors as well, which have an impact on psychiatric diseases, of course, but these are very powerful processes. The biology of the brain, the rest of the body, and the psychology of the people are being changed by these processes, which are meant to be very powerful to make those changes. And by changing lifestyle, it is not easy to have an impact on these processes. These processes have a more powerful effect compared to the effect of lifestyle. And looking from a different perspective, there are some different types of evidences. For example, psychiatric diseases in human history, since the first ages of history, they have been there. And in the Byzantine and Roman era, even going further back into the history than those, in China, the experience of the humanity and the brain, we know that there are some individuals who have distorted mental health back in those times, even looking into the texts of the past. And of course, the religious beliefs and the spiritual factors. They think they get into contact with other world creatures, and that is why they hear those voices in their heads. This is how they interpreted them. Or a person in a manic attack was given energy by the gods, by Zeus, for example. These were the interpretations of the time. But leaving those aside, we see that there were psychiatric patients back in those times, and comparing the lifestyle of those times and today's world, it is not possible to make such a comparison. And you don't have to go that far deep in history, looking at the 17th, 18th century, looking at the emergence of modern times, modern lifestyle. how can they both get light and heat in at their homes in the evening, and the circumstances they face in social life and in working life, and looking at what we're going through in 2021 today. Of course, there are very important effects on lifestyle. There is no need to exercise, for example, back in those times, because they have to work all the time with their body physically. Physical effort is what they have to undertake. I mean, this was what working life meant until very recently. Or nutritional habits. When we speak about them, for example, refined sugar when you eat a dessert, or when you drink tea, or make a cookie today. I mean, we didn't have it until 200 or 300 years ago. Only the rich ones, the wealthy ones of higher status, had access to honey or some sweet fruits, and they could only eat those and ingest some sugar, get some sugar in their bodies. And the rest of the society did not have access to sugar 2 or 3 centuries ago. But in the 21st century today, refined sugar is so common, it is so widespread that, I mean, the wealthy ones are trying to cut down on sugar, consume it less, whereas those at the lower segments of the society try to consume more sugar so that they will have more energy, more calories in a cheaper way. I mean, there are these examples, and plenty of them. I can give more examples, but my point is that the human communities, their circumstances have evolved over the years, over the centuries, and had a direct impact on their lifestyles. However, looking at the emergence of psychiatric diseases, I cannot say there is such a dramatic difference between the past and today's world. Psychosis, mania, depression, melancholy, psychosis, these are all terms coming from the past, and they were the same in the past and the same today, even dating back to the oldest times of Anatolia. In the Cappadocia region today, which was the Roman territory in the past, in the antique age, I mean, these psychiatric diseases were mentioned. And this actually, although this term is not that antique, I mean, it is not new, it is not specific to our, spatial to our age. I mean, it existed since the previous ages, and psychiatric diseases, whether they increase with the changes in lifestyle or whether they changed form, like we used to see psychosis more, now we have borderline personality disorder. It is not the case. I mean, we cannot say that. These diseases are specific and are the same in their course. They appear, they emerge from 18 to 25 years of age typically, and their course is the same. Of course, there are some changes mentally in the modern times. We have the alien delusions or fantasies about aliens, or dangers or hazards coming from computers. These are the modern content, and the content of the past was different, but not the disease. The diseases were the same. So this this is how we can consider about it. And moving from this point of view, you cannot have an impact on psychiatric diseases by changing the lifestyles. And looking at what we know about psychosis, psychiatric diseases, of course, genetics is important, not by 100%, but it is very effective, as we know. The concordance of the disease is around 50%, even in identical twins. So the genetic component is not 100%, but it is not 0%. So it has a significant impact on psychiatric diseases. In addition to that, the biology of the brain has distortions for schizophrenia, for bipolar diseases, and these are neurodevelopmental impairments which emerge during the development of the brain, during the development of the synapses or the white matter. myelinization process may be distorted there. Those individuals who will develop schizophrenia generally deviate from the normal course of development, and in the long term they develop this disease. Of course, it is related to genetics, and there are really significant studies on this, including my group, synaptic activity, white matter, and that activity. We're focusing on that, working on that, and if you add all of these together, you can say that these brain development phases, these biological developments, become imbalanced and a psychiatric disease develops. And the factors resulting in this, we have the cannabis effect on young people, but we cannot call it a lifestyle event because cannabis use is not sometimes under the control of the patient. Lifestyle is what is under your control, like eating, sleeping, but cannabis addicted young person age 18, 19 who started using cannabis due to psychosis and due to triggers related to that, you cannot call it lifestyle. I mean, it is a substance abuse related clinical table that we have. So when you say lifestyle, it is those things that you can control yourself and prefer yourself, and that you can decide how to start and how to end, like alcohol, smoking, nutrition, diet, exercise, sleeping. These variables are, I think, lifestyle factors, and they do not have a direct impact on brain development. It is hard to say that. Of course, they have an impact to a certain extent, but relatively these are very low effects, and the genetic factors and other factors are more prominent here. Speaking about sleep, if we're not speaking about a pathological level sleep disorder disturbance, we know that if there's such a pathological sleep disturbance, the psychiatric diseases are increasing. So it is not about sleeping late, waking up early. It is about insomnia, lack of sleep, and phase shifts, which are more severe forms of sleep problems. So these problems, it can be accepted. But when you say lifestyle, it is more about you stayed up late with your friends, so you went to bed late and you woke up late the other day, and anyway it was the weekend and you didn't have to go to work. So this is lifestyle. Or you have to wake up early to go to work, that is why you are very tired in the evening, and you go to bed early because you have to wake up early the next day. And these are the lifestyle preferences, and these type of preferences do not have an impact on psychiatric disorders in my point of view. Lifestyles are changing, but psychiatric diseases are constant. They are the same. And lifestyles, I mean, lifestyle changes, I think, when compared, are not that strong to affect psychiatric disorders. Of course, under certain conditions, lifestyle may have an impact on some psychiatric disorders, but if we define the lifestyle differently, and if you make very extreme lifestyle choices, for example, a diabetic patient, let's say, eating glucose and sugar, sweet all the time, if you think it is a lifestyle choice, yes, we can speak about its impact on diseases, the brain metabolism and other impacts. But these, I think, are not lifestyle choices, in my opinion. Lifestyle choices are daily choices that you make, and they do not have such an important impact on psychiatric diseases. These are the arguments that I have in my mind, and I would like to speak about one more point. Why is this question being asked? Depression, anxiety, phobias, and OCD, and bipolar disorders. lighter variants of bipolar disorders like bipolar 3, we have heard a lot about these disorders, and these are being discussed more openly within the society rather than being hidden. And within the society, the citizens, individuals, are able to accept and add these to their identity. I mean, not be ashamed of that. And young people sometimes think it is cool to say, I have depression, my anxiety has peaked, and I have a panic attack. So it gives them the feeling that they are a sensitive person. And if you do not speak about these, then you do not care about the world. I mean, although not very common, there is such an approach as well. So the psychiatric disorders are not being hidden as a secret as they used to be in the past, which is a positive change in my opinion, but also concerning on the other hand, because according to DSM definition, functional impairment is, an impairment in the function is the definition of psychiatric disorder. And who on earth would want their function to be impaired? I mean, being depressed and the world is too much to you. It may be nice to say, but if you wake up in the morning and you do not have the energy to go to work, or if you cannot function as effectively as you used to do in daily life, and if you become dysfunctional in your life, of course nobody would want that. And stigma is very high in psychiatric diseases, and I think this is the underlying reason for that. An 18-year-old son or daughter, when they tell the parent to take the son or daughter to a psychiatrist, so it is a mental health issue that their child has, and they believe a psychiatric disease impairs the functionality of their child, then they start thinking about their child's future. Will he have a family? Will he be able to get a job? And so it is this loss of function which is very marked and which is significant in these disorders. And it is not just about schizophrenia, bipolar 2 and bipolar NOS. With the definitions of these disorders, the psychiatry is more a topic of discussion, but there is also a concern. I mean, there may be suicidal thoughts, and the individual may have to go to hospital, not being able to stay at home on his own, and these are also there. So what can we do? I mean, if I change my lifestyle, if I eat better, if I exercise, then I won't have a psychiatric problem. I mean, can people say this? And depression and some other diseases, they say, are the diseases of our age. So how can we struggle with them? By overcoming the unhealthy behaviors of our age, we can say that. Do not consume too much alcohol, do not smoke a lot, and sleep at a normal time in the evening, wake up at a normal time in the morning, eat regularly, exercise regularly, take walks regularly, take care of your diet, not too much sugar, not too much salt, or ketogenic diet, and no sugar intake. So these are the different recommendations given to people. And in the contemporary world, we know there are some so-called experts, self-claimed experts, who are being taken seriously by the people, who find a platform to give nonsense recommendations to people. I mean, telling people that if you eat this or that, you will feel very good. If you exercise in this or that way, you will be very healthy. They have different messages that they give the people, and if you add all of them together, what people are trying to do is that they want to feel good, they want to be healthy and have no psychiatric disorders. And if I go on occasional walks, drink enough water, do not eat too much oil, then I won't have psychiatric problems. I mean, this may be what people think, but lifestyle changes, of course, are important on the other hand, but we shouldn't be giving such a message to the population. I mean, none of us are feeling very good in working life. We have difficulties, and we do not, maybe we do not feel safe thinking about our future, or people are having fights on the streets and in the traffic. People are very rude. Of course, in the contemporary modern world, we see these all the time, not just in Turkey. In the Western communities and other countries of the world, it is the same. Yes, these are making us ill, sick, and we're not feeling good. And if we want to feel good, you can do some small things that will make you feel better. Go to bed early, wake up early, and eat a slice of tomato and cheese, and you will feel better. I mean, when so-called experts say these to people, they want this to be real, and they feel nice about it, the people. And of course, when people, so-called experts, say this, the people want to believe in it, but we need to be careful. It's not that easy. Lifestyle choices, most of these are minor things, and most of us, when we consider the society and the ordinary people, I mean, they cannot do all of these lifestyle changes, although they are minor, because they have to take a job, take care of their family, and maybe they won't have time for walking or drinking enough water throughout the day at work. And these are easy and attractive messages, and given to people, and people want to believe in that. As a psychiatrist, of course, we should say these are healthy. It is good to be healthy, but in order to protect yourself from psychiatric diseases, lifestyle changes will not be sufficient. You can still be unhealthy. You can do physical exercise, but still develop schizophrenia in the future. We need to say these to people. We need to be careful about them. These are my messages that I wanted to share with you, and we need to resist against this approach. And I think we need to leave the lifestyle aside a bit, because with just lifestyle changes, we cannot have the desired impact on psychiatric diseases. And within the society, there's already a lack of trust. You have a look at the anti-vaccine, anti-COVID vaccine community, and we have researched into this. We know all about this. They say, and rather than being the authority that claims to know it all, I mean, we should be able to providing them good recommendations and clear information. The health professionals in Turkey are facing really difficult conditions, and I watch them with deep sorrow, actually, also in other countries. Health professionals and the science of medicine, I think there is a lack of trust in these entities. So we should not be giving those people who are provoking this lack of trust more tools to use. I mean, just change your lifestyle and you won't have psychiatric diseases. It's just an injection of empty hope, and I don't think it will be good for the society as a whole. So a psychiatrist should be careful about this. Just making lifestyle changes will not be enough in general to change the course of the disease or the emergence of the disease, but of course a better life would be better, not just for psychiatric diseases. You cannot advise your patient to drink enough water, sleep early, take walks to prevent schizophrenia or other severe psychiatric diseases. This is all from me now. I wish I could be there physically and could join the discussion physically. This time I couldn't make it there, but after today There will be a few more sessions that I will be addressing you, and at 6 p.m. Turkish time there will be Meet the Expert session activity, and I will be speaking about make publications in scientific journals. I work at the Java Psychiatry journal, so I have my own opinions on this specific topic. It will be live, and then I hope to have a better discussion with you. Thank you very much for your attention, and wish you a nice day.
So join me in a round of applause for both speakers, please, as we come to the end of the session. I think you've heard a good mixture from both sides. It's difficult when there's no live discussion going on, but the middle ground is quite clear, and I think that Dost's summarizing comments brought things together in the end. So thank you very much for attending the session today. We didn't take too much of your coffee break time, and then in less than half an hour, the next one starts. So thank you all.